Hi guys, it's Kaz and today I'm going to be talking about some of the readathons happening in 2021. Before we jump in, I just have a couple of things to let you guys know about. First of all, obviously there are going to be so many more readathons that are finalized and created throughout the year, so this is not a complete list. I've also probably missed some readathons that are definitely happening that just aren't on my radar, so if you do know of any other readathons happening, please leave a link to where I can find more information down below, or better yet, I have a link in the description to a submission form where you can submit all the information that I need to know about the readathon in order to add it to the readathon calendar that is up on my website at littlebookowl.com. So if you're wanting to stay up to date throughout the year, be sure to bookmark that page, or you can follow at readathon news on Twitter. So the way that I have organized this video is I've separated it into different sections that are dependent on the length of the readathon. I have timestamps in the description below to help you skip through different parts of the video in case you're only interested in readathons that are, say, 1 week long or 1 month long. Within each of those sections, I am going to go through all of the readathons that have confirmed dates, but there are also a lot of other readathons I thought you might like to keep on your radar. So these are readathons that have either confirmed with me that they will run again in 2021, but they don't have specific dates yet, or they're ones that usually run at least once a year and are likely to happen again in 2021, but I don't have a definite yes that they are yet. It's probably too early. I apologize if I repeat myself a little bit. There are some readathons that do actually run different lengths, either as special rounds or as a regular feature of the readathon. There's different length ones. In these cases, I have mentioned the readathons in both of the sections so that nobody misses out on finding out about readathons of the length that they are looking for. But without further ado, let's just jump straight on in with the readathons that are between 1 and 6 days long. If you're wanting to start the year with some really short and sweet 2 to 3 day long readathons, we have a few coming in January. First of all, we have the Carnival-a-thon, which is happening from the 8th until the 10th of January, which is a carnival themed readathon. We also have the Off the Grid readathon, and this readathon is all about trying to read with no distractions and really focusing your time on reading rather than your phones or TV. This readathon happens quarterly, so the first round will be from the 15th until the 17th of January. It will happen again from the 9th until the 11th of April, the 9th to the 11th of July, and the 8th to the 10th of October. The Graphics-a-thon is a readathon that usually has longer rounds, but they are doing a mini round in January from the 16th until the 19th of Jan. So the aim of this readathon is to read any book that has graphic elements as a main form of the storytelling. So things like graphic novels, comics, or mangas. The Dewey's 24-hour readathon is back on the 24th of April for another round. So this is a readathon that doesn't have any reading challenges like most of the other readathons I will be talking about in this video, but they do often do kind of hourly mini challenges on their blog and giveaways and things like that. This readathon also happens in October, so it's always April and October every year. The exact date of the October round has not yet been announced, and in terms of this readathon, it's not midnight to midnight in your time zone. There is a specific start time for everyone across the world so that everybody reads for the 24 hours together. The website does have a bit more information about this and how you can convert that into your time zone. In May and September, we will see the Queer Lit Readathon's weekend editions. The Queer Lit Readathon also has week-long rounds, which I will discuss in the week-long section later on in this video. But if you're interested in doing some weekend reading of queer literature, then be sure to join in on these readathons. They're happening from the 27th until the 28th of May and the 25th to 26th of September. From the 26th until the 31st of December, we have the End of Year-a-thon. This is an annual readathon, which is all about reading as much as you can during that period between Christmas and New Year's. Some shorter readathons that you might want to keep on your radar. We have the 24 Before Monday readathon. So this is a readathon that I think happened every single month in 2020, the last weekend of the month, but I'm not 100% sure if they're hosting it again in 2021. You might want to also keep an eye out for another 48-hour round or something else of Becca's Bookopoly-a-thon or Becca's Bookopoly Readathon. I'm not 100% certain how long this readathon will most often be going forward. The first round was 48 hours, the second round was 1 month long. But either way, this is a readathon inspired by the TBR game that Becca hosts on her channel every single month, called Becca's Bookopoly. You might also want to keep an eye out for some additional rounds of Blackathon. Typically, Blackathon is a month-long readathon happening every March. I will discuss this again later on in the video. But in 2020, they also did a 48-hour queer Blackathon edition. The Cozy Little Readathon. This is a low-key cozy readathon. So I think this readathon is usually over a weekend, but with an additional like 24-hour readathon within it as well, but perfect if you love the cozy reading vibes. Weekend editions of Desertathon. So I think this readathon is usually 1 week long, but they also sometimes host weekend editions. And this readathon is all about reading books with desert vibes. The Easter readathon is hosted over the Easter weekend, and I think it's been hosted for the past few years, so will likely pop up again in 2021. Smutathon weekend editions, they do also host week-long ones as well, but this is all about reading steamy adult romances. Now for readathons that are 1 week long. Every single month, from the 1st until the 7th of the month, there will be the Buzz Wordathon. Every single round will have a different specific buzzword or a theme in which you have to find a word that relates to it, and these words or buzzwords need to be within the title of that book. In January, the buzzword is dream. In February, the theme is a colour, so you can use blue, red, any colour. In March, the buzzword is time. In April, the theme is space or galaxy terms. In May, the buzzword is house or home. In June, the theme is a name or a title, so that's someone's name or like Mr., King, Lord, somebody's title. In July, the buzzword is last. August, it is time of day for the theme. September's buzzword is dark. October, the theme is elements. November, the buzzword is lust, and December is the theme of being any kind of day, month, or season. The Bad of Books readathon will be back again for 3 rounds in 2021. These will be happening from the 4th until the 10th of January, the 10th until the 16th of May, and the 16th until the 22nd of August. There is no particular theme for this one. You can read whatever you like, and there aren't reading challenges or prompts, but they do often host different kinds of challenges on various blogs throughout the readathon. A yearathon will be back in 2021 as well. So this is a series of 12 readathons, 1 per month, and each one has a different theme. So from the 11th until the 17th of January, the readathon for this will be to read underrated or non-hyped books. The round in February runs from the 8th until the 14th and is for reading new to you authors. March will run from the 8th until the 14th and is all about reading standalones. From the 12th until the 18th, it is all about reading adaptations. May is from the 10th until the 16th, and for this one you are to read books by one author. The June round will run from the 14th until the 20th and is all about rereading. In July, it's all about finishing and catching up on series. This one will run from the 12th until the 18th. The August round goes from the 9th until the 15th, the theme of which is Link the Books. The September round will run from the 13th until the 19th of September, the theme of which is banned books. The October round will run from the 11th until the 17th, and it's all about reading books that are horror, thrillers, or mysteries. November will run from the 8th to the 14th, and the theme is benchwarmers. And then the last round in December will run from the 13th until the 19th, and for this one, it's all about reading graphic novels, mangas, or short stories. The Ripsat Readathon, or Read Your Bookshelf-a-thon, is coming back in January from the 13th until the 20th. This is a readathon that I used to participate in all the time many, many years ago, and I'm very excited that it's coming back. The main idea for this one is you pick a point on your shelf, you choose one book, and then after that, you read the next book, and then the next book, and then the next book, and just try and read as far as possible. From the 17th until the 23rd of January, we have the Rent Readathon, which is a readathon inspired by the musical Rent. This is a team-based readathon, which means that all participants will be divvied up into different teams and competing or working with each other in various ways. With this one, each of the different teams has their own reading prompts, and you can either read all of the prompts from your chosen team, or you can mishmash different team character prompts if you want. Polathon will be returning once again on the 1st week of February, so I think this is for the 1st until the 7th of February, and this readathon is all about reading polar fantasy. The Voltathon will be returning for a few rounds in 2021. First of all, we have one in March from the 15th until the 21st, another in June from the 14th until the 20th, and also in September from the 13th until the 19th. So this is a readathon dedicated to underrated Disney movies, and each round round is inspired by a different movie. I don't think we have the individual movie themes for each of the 2021 rounds yet, but keep an eye out for their announcements later on in the year. And we also have the Queer Lit readathon, so these will be the full week-long rounds. And in case you missed it, the Queer Lit readathon also host queer weekend editions. So those are additional readathons that are 2 days long, which I mentioned earlier on in the video. So this readathon is all about reading books by and about queer people. And the week-long rounds will run from the 6th until the 12th of June and from the 5th until the 11th of December. Here are some week-long readathons that you might want to keep on your radar. We have the Because We Can readathon. The dates of this one are still TBC, but there will likely be some rounds in April and September, and each round has a different theme. The Contemporary-a-thon, which is all about reading contemporary novels. Desert-a-thon. I did mention this earlier because sometimes they do weekend editions, but there are also week-long rounds of Desert-a-thon, which is all about reading books with desert vibes. Editing Kaz here, looking freshly rolled out of bed. I apologize. Like I can feel that my eyes are puffy. But anywho, I'll be chiming in a few times with some of the readathons that I managed to skip over when I filmed this the first time, and another readathon that I've just been made aware of whilst in the process of editing this video. So we have the Disney Read-Along, which is a readathon obviously themed on Disney, and each round focuses on a different film. We may see another round of the Femme Fantail readathon, which is a readathon dedicated to reading fantasy, sci-fi, any speculative fiction written by women. The Galleathon. So the main idea for this one is to read through your digital galleys, your proofs, and clear out your NetGalley shelf. The Ghostathon is a morbid readathon, sometimes horror-based, sometimes maybe not so horror-based, but they seem to host a few of these. The Gilmore Girls readathon, which I think is just over a week long. This one will probably come out in the fall sometime and is of course inspired by the Gilmore Girls TV show. The Grinchathon, which would be at some point during December. So this is a pretty laid back and chill readathon set during the holiday season, but is ideal if you don't want to participate in a readathon that's really Christmassy themed or anything like that. You don't have to be a Grinch yourself, but it's just very laid back and chilled out. The Horror-a-thon is a horror readathon. This one does have kind of a bingo board for the reading prompts, and I think they also do Netflix watch parties and quests amongst the other challenges. The Indian Lit Readathon, which is focused on reading Indian literature. The Koreadathon, which is a celebration of Korean literature and culture. Love in the Night Readathon. This will happen sometime around October, November, and centers on paranormal romance. The Manga Love Readathon, which is all about reading manga. There aren't specific dates yet, but it will likely happen sometime in February, spring, and fall. Musicathon, which is a music-themed readathon. Readorama should be back for another couple of rounds throughout the year. Sapphicathon, so this is a readathon dedicated to reading sapphic literature, books about female romances. We also have Smutathon, which happens in either week-long or weekend editions, and this is all about reading steamy adult romances. The Touching My Shelf Readathon, which is about reading books that you already own on your shelves. The Transathon, which is focused on reading trans literature. I'm not sure if they'll host again in 2021, but their account is super active. The Very Merry Readathon, which will happen at some point during December. So this is a Christmas-themed readathon. The last round was themed on A Christmas Carol. Witchathon, a witchy readathon that celebrates the magic of the seasons. And Zodiacathon, which is an astrology-based readathon. Next up, we have readathons that are between 9 to 25 days long, I think. I think I calculated that those are like the ranges. Not 100% certain. There might be a stray 8-day one here, or I might have popped that into the week-long readathons. I'm not 100% certain. From the 1st until the 17th of January, we have the New Year's-a-thon. The aim of this is to start your reading year right with a readathon. The reading challenges for this one come in the form of a bingo board too. Every 2 months, we have the Japanese readathon. So in total, the readathon is 10 days long, and the first round of the year will run from the 5th until the 14th of February, and it's split into 2 parts. So first of all, we have the mini manga readathon. So that will be from the Friday until the Sunday, and this is right before the main part of the Japanese literature readathon, which is a week-long event. From the 14th until the 28th of February, we have the Shrekathon, which is a readathon centered around Shrek and the gang. Running from the 1st until the 25th of December, we also have 25 days of manga. So this one is a festive manga readathon. I think this one also has a bingo board too. Some other readathons you might want to keep on your radar. We have the Audiobookathon, which is a 2-week-long readathon all about listening to to audiobooks. I think they sometimes also do mini rounds as well. We also have the graphics-a-thon, which I mentioned before. They did a mini round recently, but the second round of the graphics-a-thon was about 9 days long. I'm not 100% sure if that's like the normal length or if they do different length readathons depending on the round, but this readathon is all about reading things that use graphics as the main form of storytelling. So comics, graphic novels, manga. Hamilton the Readathon. Of course, a readathon inspired by Hamilton the musical. The most recent round of this one went for 2 weeks. The Hemisphere Christmas Games. This is a 9-day long readathon that will happen sometime in December. The 2020 round had a bit of a friendly competition between the Northern and Southern Hemispheres. This might happen again, or they might change it up a little bit, but more details will be announced closer to the time. The History Challenge, which is a 2-week-long readathon all about reading non-fiction history books. The Latinx-a-thon is dedicated to reading Latinx literature. The most recent round of this one was 10 days long. The Manga Madness Readathon, which is of course dedicated to reading manga. The most recent round for this one was 15 days long. The Nancy Drew Readathon, which is a 2-week-long mystery-based readathon. And this one is set up as if you have various cases that you can solve by completing reading challenges. The Rocky Horror Readathon, of course, a readathon based on the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This one will probably have a 2-week-long round in October. We may also get a mini round at some point through the year as well. Sequelathon. I said here that it was 2 weeks long, but I think it's usually closer to 10 days. I think. Dedicated to reading sequels. Springathon, which is a 2-week-long readathon all about reading nature writing nonfiction. The Summer of Contemporary Readathon, to be confirmed, but obviously at some point during summer. And this one is of course focused on reading contemporary novels, and it goes for about 2 weeks. And we also have the Tome Tobble Readathon. So this is a 2-week-long readathon all about reading tomes, or for the purpose of the readathon, books that are over 500 pages long. This one's usually hosted quarterly, so we'll probably see some rounds sometime near February, May, August, and November. Lastly, we have readathons that are 1 month long or longer. The Among Us readathon is happening throughout the month of January, and what you do for the readathon will depend on whether or not you are a crewmate, in which you're trying to complete all your tasks, or if you are an imposter and your aim is to kill all of the crewmates. In January, we have the Explorathon. So this is a sci-fi fantasy readathon, and in January, it is all about completing term 1. Throughout the readathon, your aim is to read at least 5 books, and the reading challenges or prompts come in the form of a class list, with each prompt inspired by a different class. In addition to that, there are also photo challenges and various events including reading sprints, orientation, and a school festival. We also have the Friends readathon in January, which is of course inspired by the show Friends, the aim of which is to complete as many challenges as possible, and there are 2 life challenges, and for each of the characters there are 4 challenges. Once Upon a Grim readathon is happening in January, and this is a team-based read your own adventure readathon. In January we also have Pageathon. I think there might also be a year-long edition of the readathon as well, otherwise we'll probably see a few throughout the year, but this is a pretty casual readathon. There are no reading challenges and it's team-based. We also have the Past and Future readathon happening in January. So this is a readathon to celebrate the books of your past and also find and read books for your future too. The Pop Culture Readathon will also happen again in January. Each of the rounds is themed on a different element of pop culture. The round happening in January will be 80s movies. For this one, there is a bingo board for the reading challenges, there's trivia, reading sprints, and possible movie nights too. In addition to the round happening in January, there probably will be a few more happening throughout the year. In January, we also have a month-long readathon called Read Your Shelves, which is all about reading the books that you already have on your shelf. And this can be digitally, physically. There's also a bingo board for the challenges. From the 3rd of January until the 2nd of July, we have the A to Z or A to Z readathon. The premise of this one is to read your way through the alphabet over 26 weeks, and each week will have a different prompt for each of the letters of the alphabet. The Will You Accept This readathon. So this is a month-long readathon that starts on the 4th of January, and I apologize if I missed finding this piece of information, but I'm not 100% sure if it ends at the end of January or if it runs until like the 3rd or 4th of Feb. But this readathon is based on The Bachelor to celebrate the new season starting on the 4th of January, and there will be another round later on in the year to coincide with The Bachelorette. The Medievalathon, which is a month-long readathon starting on January 10th. This is a medieval-based readathon where you aim to increase your nobility by reading more books. The Black Lit Challenge. So this happens throughout the month of February and is all about celebrating Black literature. The creator of this readathon, Seiji of The Artisan Geek, created an amazing resource. It's the Black Literature Compendium. It's a Google Doc with a whole bunch of books separated by genre, written by Black authors. So if you're interested in this readathon, definitely go and take a look at the compendium. It is massive. It's how many pages? 104 pages long. It's huge. So much work has been put into it, so please go and give it the love it deserves and make good use of it. It's free to peruse, so just a quick recommendation there. In February, we also have the Demonathon. So this one is an immersive readathon, the premise of which is that you are a new summoner and there is a demon who is willing to strike a bargain with you. From my understanding, throughout the readathon, you read books in order to prove your dedication and win a contract with this demon. Like I said, it is immersive. There's a whole website with a whole lot of resources. It's very, very cool. Definitely go and take a look. But the last round was 1920s themed and set in the Grand Hotel. And basically you obtained passwords to enter different rooms. And in these rooms, you'd find a demon who would give you a reading prompt. I'm not exactly sure how the next round will be formatted, but if that interests you at all, this is coming in Feb. The Historathon happens throughout the month of February and is a readathon dedicated to historical fiction. Also in February, we have the Pixarathon. So this is a readathon dedicated to movies created by Pixar. Each round is based on a different film, and the one coming up in February is going to be Toy Story themed. I think this is also a team-based readathon as well. There will be team captains and reading challenges and prompts and all that good stuff. Also coming in February, we have Valentine's. So this is a readathon dedicated to nurturing your love of reading and books. Waywardathon is happening in February, and this is a supernatural themed readathon. The reading challenges, I think, come in the form of a bingo board, and this first round will be inspired by season 1 of the show. Coming up in February, we have the first of the Seasons of Reading readathons. So this is a series of readathons, most of which are 1 month long. There are a couple of exceptions. Some of these are themed, some of them are not. So throughout the month of February, we have the Winter's Respite readathon. This one has no particular theme. In April, we have the Spring into Horror readathon. The only requirement for this one is to read 1 scary book. In June, we have the Sci-Fi Summer readathon, and this is all about reading sci-fi. Of course, you can also add some fantasy if you'd like. In July, there will be the Christmas in July readathon. This doesn't go for the entire month, but I don't know what the dates are. Throughout the month of August, we have the High Summer readathon. This one doesn't have any particular theme either. The Fright Fall readathon will be in October. The only requirement for this one is to read 1 scary book. And lastly, we have the Christmas Spirit readathon, which is holiday themed. And this readathon runs from the 25th of November 2021 until the 6th of January 2022. In February, we also have the Wonderlandathon, which is an Alice in Wonderland themed readathon. And the main aim of this one is to complete the chapter and companion prompts. The Heroic Tests is a team-based superhero themed readathon. So the different teams are Team Avengers, Justice League, or X-Men. In March, we have March Mystery Madness, which is a month-long mystery reading event. The challenges in this one also come in the form of a bingo board. We will also see the next round of Pondathon in March, which is another immersive, narrative-driven readathon. In the first round of Pondathon, you created your own character and completed different reading challenges to kind of work cooperatively with all the other readathoners in order to complete the story. And there will be a gardening theme for the next round. If you haven't checked out their blog, The Quiet Pond, it's like a narrative-driven blog. It is brilliant. It's so wonderful. So many great recommendations. Definitely go check it out. We also have a Walking Dead readathon happening in March, of course, based on The Walking Dead. The Tropical readathon. So this is a team-based readathon with reading challenges inspired by various tropes, and this will have a round in March and in August. In April, we have the Colorathon, which is a color-themed, team-based readathon. We also have the Disability readathon in April, which is focused on reading disabled writers, stories, and characters. Round 4 of the Mythothon will be happening in April, which is a mythology-based readathon. So previously there have been different mythologies explored or used as the theme for each round. So previously they've looked at Norse mythology, Celtic and Greek. We also have the Thankful-a-thon, which is dedicated to books that you are thankful for. It looks like we're going to be having rounds in April, July and November. The Eurovision-a-thon, which is of course inspired by Eurovision and is happening from the 25th of April until the 22nd of May. I believe the aim of this one is to look at the countries on the Eurovision long list or leaderboard and read books that are either set in by an author from or a character visits those countries. In May, we have the Minecraft Readathon. This is an annual readathon inspired by Minecraft, of course. The Sea Maiden-a-thon is happening in May, and this is a team-based mermaid readathon. Arc August, which happens every year, this is a readathon dedicated to reading your arcs, your proofs, galleys, early reading copies. In August, we will also have Draconathon. So this is a draconic-based readathon. Last round, they had 2 prompts each for 7 different dragons. I think there was a draconic prompt for reading books with dragons, and a global prompt, which is a story from a certain region or written by an own voices author from that country or continent. If you're into Gothic fiction, there are a couple of readathons that you can actually participate in during the month of October. So we have the Gothic Readathon, a readathon all about reading Gothic literature, and there's also Gothtober, another readathon all about reading Gothic literature throughout the month. Hocus Pocus Readathon, so this is another team-based readathon happening throughout the month of October, of course themed on Hocus Pocus. Spooktober is a month-long celebration of Halloween. The readathon runs for the whole month and there are movie nights and photo and reading challenges. Slayerfest, this is a month-long readathon that happens in October based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Believeathon round 4 is going to be happening throughout the month of November, and this readathon is all about reading middle grade fiction, and round 4 is going to be jungle or adventure themed. The Clear Your Shit readathon will be happening again in 2021, and if it is the same dates as it was in 2020, it should be from the 1st of November until the 27th of December, and this readathon is focused on clearing your shelves so you have a fresh start in the new year. Non-fiction November is of course during the month of November and is all about reading non-fiction books. And now for some month-long readathons that you might want to keep on your radar that aren't yet confirmed but may very well happen. The Asian Readathon, which is a readathon celebrating Asian characters and authors, may be back again in May. Also keep an eye out for the month-long editions of Becca's Bookopoly. I mentioned earlier that we may see some 48-hour rounds, but I'm not 100% certain how long this readathon will be on a regular basis. Round number 1 was 48 hours, round number 2 was 1 month long. We might see something different as well. It's inspired by Becca's Bookopoly TBR game, so if you're into a kind of bookish Monopoly situation, then keep an eye out for this one. Blackathon is a Black History Month inspired readathon, and it's all about celebrating Black authors and stories. And in 2020, there was also an additional 48-hour readathon round. Blackaweenathon is a readathon that we might see again in October. It is a celebration of Black authors who write in the spooky genres. The Bookemon Readathon is a Pokemon-based readathon. It is team-based and essentially you build your own Bookie decks through collecting Bookemon badges or cute little Bookemon. The Bratz Readathon, which is a month-long readathon themed on Bratz. The Christmasathon has happened for a couple of years now. It happens during the month of December and has some Christmas-themed reading challenges, but not all of them are about reading Christmassy books. We should also expect to see a Descendants-themed readathon coming sometime in July or August. The Fantasy Journey-a-thon, so this is a map-based fantasy readathon. Femathon will be happening in March. I don't have any more details on this one, so keep an eye out for more. There's also the Fuckathon, which I think happens in July every year, or at least last year it did. And this is a month-long readathon with various reading challenges themed along the lines of fuck ableism, fuck capitalism, fuck white supremacy, etc, etc. Hypathon. I'm not entirely sure if this is happening in 2021. In the year 2020, it did happen every single month. It was month-long every single month. The main focus of this was reading hyped books and series. The Irish Readathon. So this is usually held every March, and this is a readathon dedicated to reading Irish literature. The Latinx Book Bingo is a readathon dedicated to Latinx literature. They have reading challenges in the form of a bingo board, and this one will be sometime around September, October. March of the Mammoths is a readathon we may see again in the month of March, which is a readathon themed on mammoths. We also have the Mental Health-a-thon, which usually runs in the month of of May as well. The musical-a-thon is a biannual readathon that is based on different musicals. Each one I think is themed on a specific musical and will have reading challenges inspired by the songs. So read a thin, which aims to thin out your TBR. We may also see the Sims-a-thon, which is a Sims-themed readathon. The TBR readathon, which has a bingo board for reading challenges and prompts. The To Be Continued readathon, which is about continuing series. We may also see Victober again throughout the month of October. This is a readathon dedicated to reading Victorian literature. Women in Horror Month readathon. So we may see this again in February, which is Women in Horror Month. I do have some readathons that don't quite fall into any of the other categories, so I'm just going to take a moment to mention them here. First up, we have the Boo-a-thon. So this is a readathon that previously I've seen run from 24 hours to 48 hours to 13 days. I'm not entirely sure what the normal length for this readathon is, but it is a spooky readathon that is often hosted in October, but you might also see some additional rounds happen throughout the year too. In February, expect a new and very interesting readathon. So this is being created by Rachel of Let Me in the Library. I'm not sure exactly what the name of this readathon is yet, but the main idea for it is that you build your way to a bubble tea by reading ingredients. There's also Cramathon, and by the looks of it, they often host a round during summer and winter as well, so usually 2 a year. The lengths of which have been different for the last several rounds. I've seen one that's 2 weeks long, 1 week long, 10 days long, and 3 days long. The Gen X readathon is slated to happen in May, but I don't know the exact dates yet, and I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to be, but something to keep an eye out for. This is being hosted by The Bookish Mum. And I think that about wraps up this video. So those are all of the readathons happening so far in 2021 that I'm aware of. Again, if I've missed anything, please send me a link to where I can find out more information, or actually submit all of the details in the submission form. That would be incredibly, incredibly helpful, and I'll be sure to add them to the readathon calendar as I update it throughout the year. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you find this useful. Don't forget to check out the Readathon News Twitter account to get more updates, as well as my blog where I actually host the readathon calendar. Bookmark that page, save it, come back to it whenever. I'll update it as I know more about more readathons. But that wraps up this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon in a new one, and until then, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!